Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another week of Future of Money. My name is Denitha Doe, and I am here with Gale Crosley, an amazing thought leader within the accounting profession. For those of you who aren't familiar with Gale, she is quite popular within the field. She is a CPA and consults with accounting firms on revenue growth. She has been awarded the 2014 Advisory Board Hall of Fame, and she's also been selected as one of the most recommended consultants in the Inside Public Accounting Best of the Best annual survey of firms for 11 consecutive years. Amazing. And she's one of the top 100 most influential people in accounting for Accounting by Accounting Today for the last 9 consecutive years. She is an honors accounting graduate from the University of Akron, Ohio. Love the Midwest. And winner of the Simonetti Distinguished Business Alumni Award, and is an editorial advisor for the Journal of Accountancy. Thank you so much, Gail, for being here with me today.
Well, you are quite welcome, Denitha, and it's great to be with you on this beautiful day. And I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Me as well. I would love to talk a little bit more. I know I shared a little bit about your background. Can you highlight maybe a couple of things specifically that you do with accounting firms?
Yes, I take firms who are either large or large thinking and want to grow. That's important because if you don't want to grow, then you don't want to talk to me. Uh, and because we will get you growing. Who want to grow and learn how to do it in a way that is representative of the market today, the challenging market conditions we have and the complexity of the markets require a more sophisticated approach toward growth than we've had in years past. And so firms come to me in order to help them and guide them through how do we grow for our future generations who are coming up through the firm, and looking forward, and what's that look like, and how is that different from the way we came up through the firm. So that's what I do, is I help them transform their firm into a high growth culture.
I love that. And I love that buyers beware tag that you have there. If you don't want to grow, don't
Yes.
talk to me. If you aren't ready to make more money, don't come to me.
True enough. True enough.
I love that. And you hit on an interesting point. You've been in the industry, you've seen a lot of change over the last few years. Can you tell me a little bit about how you first helped firms and how that's changed over time?
Yes. When I first opened up my practice, which was 14 years ago, some of the things that I brought over from corporate America, which is where I spent many years after my years as a CPA, on the growth side of the corporate arena, a lot of those on a scale of 1 to 10 were at a 10 in terms of level of sophistication and cutting edge approaches toward growth. So when I came over into the CPA world, I was surprised by, shall we say, how unsophisticated we are. But we really didn't need to be. I mean, it was, banker breakfast, lawyer lunches, cultivate our referral sources, sit, and as Sam Allred would say, aggressively wait for the phone to ring, and all was good. But what's happened since is, and so my message was very out there, very, like strange to a lot of firms. Now it's making more sense. And that's because our profession and the markets have changed dramatically that are going to require this higher level of sophistication than just a banker breakfast and a lawyer lunch and random acts of networking, shall we say.
Interesting. And I love that you were a maverick in the beginning, and now it's somewhat
Still,
accept.
still am. Because as they're coming up behind me and grabbing my message, I'm looking into the future. So I'm off to where do I need to take you now in the next 5 to 10 years? So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, so there's a lot of talk about accounting firms becoming future ready and staying relevant with these changing times. Can you talk a little bit about what are these changing times? What are accounting firms facing that's so challenging?
Okay. The complexity in the market is probably the most number one characteristic of it, and that is that just a few short years ago, before the recession, we could do, individually go out and cultivate our referral sources and wait for the phone to ring, and it was good enough. We didn't have as much competition as we have today, and now it's serious. There's an estimated 600,000 to 700,000 CPAs on the planet, and most of them in the U.S. There are 44 to 46 or 7,000 CPA firms. There's like one on every corner, kind of like McDonald's. And so we had lots more competition. We have the requirement, because we're a mature market, for more specialization than we had before. We all hung out our shingles. We were generalists, come one and come all. And now we mature markets that mature out require specialization, and we also have globalization, international. The borders are melting because of technology, and so I liken it to a piece of cheese. Your market was your piece of cheese, and it was, it looked like a chunk of cheddar, block of cheddar or something. Oh, wait a minute, it turned into Swiss cheese, and there are people coming from all parts of the planet and eating holes in our market. And so these are the specialists. Somebody's eating a hole in our real estate market. Somebody's eating a hole in our nonprofit market. Somebody else in our construction market. And our markets are starting to look like Swiss cheese. Well, we need to get into what I'll call a new growth model, so that we can eat Swiss cheese in everybody else's market and be the exporter, right, of specialization, not just look around and say, what happened to my market? Like, who moved my cheese? Who moved my market? And that's what it's looking like today.
Interesting. And are you seeing that firms are open to this new way of thinking of specializing and approaching revenue growth in this different capacity?
It's very challenging for firms to do that, to get their heads wrapped around it, because it's not just an incremental, like, well, I'll just go take sales training, or I'll put together a brochure, or, I'll do some thought leadership, maybe speaking or writing, or these tactical things. It's so complex. Not only the things that I mentioned, technology, competition, international, but also things like standards and regulation are upon us, and a whole plethora of things, the succession, and the retirement of partners, and the next generation, and they weren't prepared for. It goes on and on. So it's not incremental. It's going to require a change in the business model itself. The business model for growth in the past was basically tactical. We went out and did these tactics. We were generalists, and basically it was what I'll call boots on the ground, banker, breakfast, lawyer, lunch. And now it's much more strategic. We can't be just tactical. We have to look at entire markets and how to grab them, not just a client at a time. And specialists, for sure, uber specialization, and then digital, okay? With cloud and all the things that are going on digitally, it's a completely different business model toward growth. And so when you take, the old tactical generalist boots on the ground, and you marry it with strategic specialist digital, it's like, wait a minute, we've got to shift. We've got to shift how we look at growth from, just a client at a time to a market at a time, from I'll do everything for everybody to I will do specific services for specific buyer groups, and from boots on the ground to I'll grab technology, and technology will be the epicenter of my growth strategy and the client experience and the way I acquire clients, not just the use of technology in the back room, which is where we've been for many years, right? The infrastructure, the time and billing, the CRM, it's been back room. It isn't that way anymore. And so that's the challenge, is to go from old business model, new business model.
And those are a lot of different pieces to try to tackle when you're still trying to run your practice and still service your clients at the same time.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk a little bit more about the technology piece. There's a lot of talk about moving to the cloud, and I loved how you mentioned that it's not just implementing it for your own sake within the practice. It's how do you included within the client experience. Can you elaborate
Yes.
on that?
Yes, I can. When you the essence of it is not just cloud. You've got portals, you've got social media, you have mobility. So you got all these platforms that are coming together in a way where one of them would be a fairly dramatic shift. But when you pull all of them together, wow. But the one that has really is really transforming our profession is the cloud, because the cloud enables you to go from, in essence, an episodic contact with a client. And think of it this way, once a year they come in on April 14th, which with a box of receipts in a shoebox and say, here, do my taxes, right?
Yes.
Anyway, now shift into the cloud. Now you and they can see their financial statements all throughout the year. You can post things all throughout the year. You can keep their books clean all throughout the year. And so we go from episodic contact to continuous contact. Huge shift, okay? Jody Paydar, who just wrote a book called The Radical CPA,
Love Jody.
says in there that 80% of her workload shifted from busy season to non-busy season. Think of that. Huge. So now it's shifted workload. Then think about this. If you're in continuous contact, the billable hour isn't relevant anymore. You can't charge for, well, I talked to him for a minute and a half, and then, the value is not in an hours-based pricing model. And then you get into, we used to bring people into the firm and we'd throw them in the back room, lock the door. They do tax returns till, their fingers fell off their hands. We'd throw them a sandwich every now and then. We don't need to do that. They can be Skyping and talking to clients on a continuous basis, so they can be cutting their communication skills and honing them very early in their career, so we can get them right smack in front of the client early in their career. It has changed career pathing and pricing and packaging of services and how we deliver services, how we acquire clients. If we want to do veterinarians as our specialty, we can reach every veterinarian potential on the planet through social media. We can find us, we can find them, they can find us. We can thought leadership with them. They can say, I like what I see, hit the button, I want to talk to this firm, etc. So that's what I mean by it's changed everything. And some of the firms are not aware of this. It's the young upstarts like Jody, like Jason Bloomer, like Michael Shue, and this whole group that's on thriveall.com. It is so exciting. It's changing the face of our entire profession.
I love that. And I can tell that it's really exciting for you too. For those that may be listening that are still hesitant, whether it's they're nervous about introducing technology into their practice, or they just don't believe that this is really a trend that's happening within the profession. Can you talk a little bit about some of the work that you've done and the results that you've seen?
Yes, I'm working with several firms that in the mid-sized firms that are, in larger, they have client accounting services as one of many industries or service lines that they are focused in on. And in those cases, we are retooling their practices to be not the redheaded stepchild, but at the epicenter of the digital age. And the growth rates there are 10 and 20% a year, whereas audit and tax are like 0 to 3% a year. And so all of this cutting edge stuff is happening in client accounting services, which on the smaller end of the market is sort of the bread and butter of the small end. So it's good news for small sole and small practitioners if they will grab on. One of my small practitioners, small but large thinking, about 3 years ago, I ran into him in a parking lot at a conference and I said, digital, baby, you got to do it. Client accounting services, go talk to CPA.com, which is the AICPA's for-profit arm, and go and look at their website and look at their white papers and see what they're doing. And so I ran into him about a year ago, and he is absolutely blowing the doors off of it. He's got a niche in education and private schools and churches, and it's like, yes. And some of the white papers that you see on the CPA.com website are just like Steve Cheney, who has now a few hundred churches, and he came out of nowhere, right? Within 3 years. I mean, there are practices like that are just so very exciting. So that's one of the things that if I were in the shoes of somebody listening to this video, what I would do is go to CPA.com. That would be one of my first stops. Then I would get a hold of Jody Padar's book, The Radical CPA. And then I would do research on those two and the digital conference that the AICPA does in early December every year. I'd get myself to that. I would be so immersed and so exposed to all these things that are going on around me. So I could report back into the firm and say, not only do I validate that this is happening, but I am confident we could do it, and now I know the resources needed to get it done, to transform our firm into a firm of the future.
I absolutely love that. And so in case you didn't quite hear it, definitely immerse yourself within the digital space of the accounting profession. Gale just gave you a ton of resources. And I do also want to plug your site, crosleycompany.com. You have plenty of case studies on there to give accountants information on how you work with clients, but also
Yes.
Just tidbits on how they can apply it to their practice immediately. There's one case study where the client really wanted to work with tech companies, and
Yeah.
could you talk a little bit about that? Because I loved how they were able to twist it so they could actually be a specialist within the tech industry.
Yes. Oh, yeah. There are so many beautiful examples of firms that have done that, and I've got over 100 articles up there into 5 categories you can search around in. And the 3 that I just completed for Accounting Today, called The Innovators, that really drills down on what some of these young, upstart, cutting-edge firms are doing, and they're especially good, those 3 articles. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gale, for your words of
You're
wisdom and sharing your experience. How can an accountant or a firm get in contact with you?
Just email me at gcrosley, GCROSLEY, at CrosleyCompany, spell it out, .com. It's not the radio company.
Do you get that a lot?
I got calls, hey, I need my radio fixed, and I'm like, not in my bailiwick, not me, not a. But yeah, gcrosley at CrosleyCompany.com, or on my website, there's a contact us form so that they could come in that way, and we watch that every day, so we'll know if you want to find us, we'll find you.
Fabulous, fabulous, and we'll definitely include a link to your site down below, so others can follow up with you. Did you have any lasting thoughts that you wanted to share about your excitement about where the accounting profession is going?
I think my last thought is that as a firm, each one of you have to decide whether you're going to be sustainable and have a future, or whether this is a lifestyle business and you're going to turn the lights out or merge up someday. And that's really the important question: is, do we want to grow and be sustainable and be relevant and attract new talent, young talent who's very digital centric? Or do we want to not do that? And by the way, someone doesn't grow, that's fine too. I'm okay with that. And I talk to a lot of firms that say, we don't need to talk to you, we don't want to grow. And I'm like, I'm glad that you know that, and just be very clear-eyed about that direction and what your future looks like. The worst thing is that you aren't growing and you didn't think about it, and then one day you have your back to the wall. As long as you're conversing with yourself or with your partners and say, this is what we want and this is the likely outcome, whether it's a no growth model, low growth model, or a high growth model, that's the important thing for firms to do, and not just not talk about it. So those are my final words of wisdom.
I love that. Get really clear on what you want and then make a plan to
That's right.
achieve it. Awesome.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Gale, for your time today. And
all right. Thanks.